Welcome to CLEF Notes, brief answers to theological questions. Our question for this morning, how important is a specific word for translating the Greek text of the New Testament? Well, a good example of the importance of such a word is when we look at John 3:16 in the old King James translation, where it talks about the only begotten Son of God. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. Now, if you look in newer translations, you'll find that this term only begotten has disappeared. It's been replaced with only, one and only, one special Son, one unique Son. And there's some arguments that could be made in that regard. But the problem, of course, is this term begotten. What does it ultimately mean? Well, it refers to the eternal generation of the Son. It doesn't refer to, ultimately, the birth of the Son as man in Bethlehem, but his eternal generation from the Father. Now, that's kind of hard to get our head around, but think of it this way, and this is the way theologians talk about it, that the Son eternally begets, or is eternally begotten from the Father eternally begets the Son, and the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son. That's one more time. The Father begets the Son is begotten from the Father, and the Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son. And that is happening eternally, constantly, continually. Here I like to think of the flux capacitor of Back to the Future fame, that light in the DeLorean that had things going back and forth from 3 points. That's kind of a nice way to think of how the Father is eternally begetting the Son is eternally begotten of the Father, and the Holy Spirit proceeds from both. We call this the inner workings of the Trinity, and it's how we speak about them traditionally. We get some of that vocabulary from a verse like John 3:16. So we can't just toss out this term and say, well, begotten, we can't understand that. We have to go with other terms like one, or one and only, or one special Son. Well, then we run into other problems, don't we? Because we're called through the adoption of the Holy Spirit sons and daughters of God. Adam, in Luke 3, is even called a son of God. Why? Because he was created by God. So, perhaps a lot more is going on there in John 3:16, and we can also point to John 1:14, 1:18, 3:18, and 1 John 4:9. So we can't be too quick to toss out that term begotten because we don't understand it right away. It points to a larger reality of our existence here on earth as we relate to the begottenness of the Son and the Father that begets, and the Holy Spirit who proceeds. And of course, then we can talk about the incarnation of that only begotten Son. Perhaps if you go to a church that uses the Nicene Creed, this is kind of tingling in your brain. Begotten of the Father before all worlds. God of God, light of light. Very God of very God. Begotten, not made. You can look into that. You can Google it. You can do some more investigating online. But just this one term demonstrates to us how important it is to get it right when we create a translation of the Greek New Testament. So I hope you can join me next time on CLEF Notes.